Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. This is part 2 of Fiscal Policy. Part 1 has been uploaded. If you haven't watched it, give it a view and give it a like, subscribe if you want. And so today we are going to dive into the core of fiscal policy. Like we are going to understand actually what it is, evaluate it, and I'll make sure that you are prepared for your exam if you have it on this particular topic. Alright, so without any further ado, let's get started. And of course, I forgot, I'm Professor T here. Alright, so here we have. So now, as I said in the last video, I'm going to explain the consequences of different types of budget. So, like budget deficit, budget balanced budget, or budget surplus. So, if you look at if you look at balanced budget, it's when government revenue is equal to government expenditure, which is a normal situation. It's usually like when economy is working normally, there are no problems. It will usually have a balanced budget, but it's rare. In theory, it's rare. It's usually a deficit or it's a surplus. So budgets are often in deficit when the economy has low economic growth. So what, as we know by economic growth is when economic growth refers to the output, the total value of goods and services that an economy is producing. So if there is low economic growth, that means the value of goods that we are producing is inadequate. It's not enough, like as compared to the previous years. So this will lead to a budget deficit. Now, why would this lead to a deficit? Because when you are in a budget deficit, you are giving more to the people, right? So when you are giving more money to the people, so businesses will have more money to invest. As a result, they can produce more goods and services. And as they produce more goods and services, the value of our output, which comes under the economic growth, increases. So that is why when there is low economic growth, the government usually has to go under a budget deficit so that they can provide more money to the economy. In these circumstances, government expenditure is naturally higher. Example, higher job seekers allowance payments. So if the economy is in a recession, people will lose jobs and they need money, so the job seekers allowance has to be greater. Budget deficit should also improve. So as you get more money, the budget deficit would slowly improve, and we'll get towards a stable condition where will be close to a balanced budget, very close. In these circumstances, government expenditure is falling while its revenue is rising. So as it improves, the revenue will start to rise, and there might be a situation where we even get a budget surplus. Now, UK and USA normally operate at a budget deficit. Running a budget deficit means that the government will have to borrow the difference between income and expenditure because they want to provide more to the citizens that they gain through the revenue. So that is why they would have to borrow money. So this will increase the national debt, meaning that interest will have to be paid on the borrowing. So if they borrow from the international countries, if they borrow internationally from different countries, so that reduces the balance of payments. So like a balance of payments, I know I haven't covered it in detail, but to just give you like a quick feel of what it is, it's just like in a way to like for a basic definition, just understand that money that you give to different countries and the money you gain from different countries through like buying and selling, or imports and exports, if you will. But there are many other factors as well. This is just to give you a quick feel. So it's just money coming in from other countries and money that you have borrowed from other countries, so that you have to pay to them. Now, this will increase the national debt, meaning the interest will have to be paid on the borrowing, and if you buy from other countries, it worsens your balance of payments. If a government expenditure is targeted, say, on infrastructure or education, this can help increase the supply of goods and services, increase economic growth. More goods and services, they'll have more value, increasing economic growth. The vast majority of countries run a budget deficit. That's not necessary. Now, a country such as Germany operates on a budget surplus. Now, running a budget surplus means that a government will be able to pay off the national debt. So, it will now they have more money, right? So, what they have borrowed from other countries, almost every country has some money that they have borrowed from from some other country. So now they want to repay this money. They have more money, they can repay it. So it favors their balance of payments. So it improves their balance of payments. However, to fund a surplus, government is likely to raise taxation or lower expenditure, which will have consequences. Again, if you raise taxation, people start saving, businesses see a fall in demand, so they have to cut down on production. and as they cut down on production, it leads to unemployment, and then again government has to go under a budget deficit. So it's like self-correcting. This will put pressure on households who need to increase personal debt as their disposable income falls. Yeah, because taxes rise, you need to pay more. Your disposable income is the money that you can actually afford to spend. The fall in government expenditure and household spending will impact negatively on economic growth, cutting government income further, and then they would have to tend towards budget deficit. Now, finally, fiscal policy is the use of government revenue, spending and borrowing to influence the economy. So it basically is just how government spends its budget and the use of taxes. Taxation should be a word in this definition. I don't know why it's not there. Taxation is a word which should be in this definition. So fiscal policy is the use of, actually I'll write the correct definition here for you. Fiscal policy is the use of taxation and government spending from budget to achieve economic objectives. Spending, yeah. If you write this definition, you will get the marks. Or just say government spending. Government spending / how government decides its budget to achieve economic objectives. Yeah. All right. So fiscal, this is it, and now government gets its revenue through a lot of taxes. We covered that in the first video. If you haven't watched it, then I believe you should, because it has all the prerequisites for this. Now, so taxation can impact on unemployment, inflation, and economic growth. We'll get to that in a second. It's a significant tool in controlling the economy. Now, fiscal policy affects levels of income and expenditure within the economy. Government use the income from taxation for spending purposes, and these are the sectors which are the main ones, as we talked about in the previous video. By increasing government expenditure, what will happen is people will get more money. As a result, they have more disposable incomes. They want to spend more. Businesses see a rise in demand. Aggregate means total demand in the economy, and so they have incentive to produce more, increase their supply. When income is below expenditure, the government will have to borrow. We just talked about that. Now, there are 4 main objectives that fiscal policy wants to meet, which are price stability, economic growth, better balance of payments, and low unemployment. Price stability is when prices remain almost the same. Although government wants some inflation, the target is, I think, 2 to 3%. Yeah. I think that's the target, with plus or minus 1%. So that's it. Yeah, that's the price stability. And economic growth, when the value of output rises, better balance of payments. They want to have less borrowed money, and low unemployment. Well, self-explanatory. So maintaining full employment. By lowering taxation, there is a greater incentive for individuals to work because they'll have more disposable income. In effect, the real wage rate will rise. So imagine, let's say you get £10 as your wage and you have to pay 2% tax right now. So that means your disposable income is £8. Now let's say the taxation rate is now 1%. Now you have £9 to spend. Your disposable income has increased, and so your real wage rate has increased. Firms will see an increase in profits if corporation tax falls. Self-explanatory. This can be reinvested to create jobs, so employment rises. And by increasing expenditure, government can increase in aggregate demand. We talked about that. This leads to more people working as firms demand more workers. So that's it. So now, if you want to produce more, there is an increase in demand. You want to produce more. For producing more, you would need more workers. So unemployment falls. So, and now price stability. Increased taxation reduces aggregate demand. This leads to a fall in demand pull inflation rates. So demand pull inflation is takes place when there is too much demand. So supply cannot meet that demand. So what will happen is the firms will increase their prices so that the demand falls. We know this is the law of demand. As price increases, demand falls. Increased taxation reduces aggregate demand. This is one, and it's vice versa as well. So let's say there is no demand and government wants to encourage demand for products, they'll reduce taxation so that people have more money to spend. It will also impact on the costs of a firm. High taxes increase costs, of course. This will impact on supply as cost push inflation will occur. By raising or lowering taxation, the government can help the economy to meet its inflation target of between 1 and 3%. Now the last objective they want to meet is the economic growth. Again, I'll repeat the definition. It's when the value of our output, which is goods and services, increases over time. Reducing taxation gives firms a greater incentive to produce. It reduces the cost of firms. This leads to an increase in the supply of goods and services. An increase in spending will lead to higher aggregate demand, as we just saw. This will lead to increased output by firms. As there is increased output, GDP will rise. Oh, actually, economic growth. Yeah, okay. GDP will increase as a result. Of course, it will. The economic growth, I think you could write it either way. So, economic growth, I think the official definition is economic growth is when is the increase in real GDP over time. Yeah, and now this happens because your output increases. So now let's say your output was, let's say, 10 units, yeah, and now you have 10 people in an economy, so your GDP is just 1. Let's ignore the units for now. Now let's say you produce 20 units, you still have 10 people, then your GDP is, well, this is the, yeah, GDP per capita also increases, so it's just the GDP per capita would be, now again I don't know what's happening today. Now, for those you don't know, GDP is the value of output. I don't know why I need to explain that when I'd already said that. And now, GDP per capita, just for the sake of this, GDP per capita is just GDP over population. So, well, economic growth is the increase in real GDP, which is the value of goods and services, and GDP per capita is GDP upon population, GDP per capita. Like, it gives you the average income of each person in the country. It gives you the average just ignore this, please. Just, if we go back, yeah. Now, fiscal policy can be used to meet, okay. Balance of payments. A fall in taxation makes firms more competitive. This is due to lower costs, and firms have more funds to invest in production, so they produce more. And when they produce more, that means if our goods are high quality, because the firms could invest more, they can be sold at a higher price to the different countries. And when these countries borrow from us, like buy products from us, we gain revenue, and which again helps us in maintaining a healthier balance of payments. It favors our balance of payments, having a strong balance of payments. That's why it's had to do with imports, exports. I just explained it to you in layman terms. So this is how it is, but it's not as easy. Okay, these are just some calculations. I think most of you would know it. Just give it a read if you don't. Taxation affects markets as it increases the cost of providing goods and services. This leads to a fall in both demand and supply. However, the government tend to tax price inelastic products, impacting heavily on petrol, alcohol, and cigarettes, as there are few close substitutes. Now, inelastic products are where when even if the price rises, the demand will more or less will be the same. So people will buy them no matter what the price is, because there are very few substitutes. Petrol, alcohol, cigarettes, bread. So these are all just price inelastic products. The government also put a stamp duty on property, making it more expensive to buy in the housing market. And now government spending impacts heavily on certain markets. NHS is one of them. Spending on infrastructure such as construction leads to mass employment in the private sector. Therefore, the UK economy in different markets is dependent to a significant extent on the government. Now, they want to spend on education, health and infrastructure. Yeah, we know that. Now, you know, these taxation and budget, like budget surplus, budget spend, deficit, they can achieve certain economic objectives, but there would be a case where they have to compromise with the other ones. I'll give you an example. So, so the achievement of one objective can often lead to a negative impact on other objectives. So now imagine if the government invests in education and training, this may result in more skilled workers who can be more productive and produce higher quality goods and services, right? So now when they produce higher quality goods and services, they can be exported at more competitive price. Exported means like they can be sold to the different countries at a more competitive price, which may improve the balance of payments. Because then you will have less money borrowed because you'll get more revenue from the other countries. This will increase demand and lead to greater economic growth. This may in turn create more jobs and lower unemployment. However, now when the unemployment increases, that means more people are working. That means there are more incomes going on in the country. Now, as incomes rise, now people will want to spend more because they have more income, right? So this leads to higher demand, which leads to inflation. And this affects on price stability. So even though you achieve three of them, you had to compromise with the fourth one. Now inequalities in income and wealth occur when there are differentials in this individuals. Yeah, you can just read this. Yeah, this is all right. This is nearly the end. I'll just explain you like how, like when you try to achieve some economic objectives, you have to compromise with the other ones. Now imagine, so you want to achieve economic growth, which is the again increase in GDP, which is the value of goods and services. You want to achieve economic growth, you will tend towards a budget deficit. So you will tend towards a budget deficit so that you can give more money to the businesses. So government spending increases. Government spending has increased. And obviously you would have to reduce taxation, otherwise there is no point. You can spend more, you can give people more money, but if you are taxing the same amount, then well, it didn't have an impact, did it? Reduce taxation. Now as a consequence, now the consequences were that now GDP, so economic growth took place, so did the unemployment, so unemployment levels decreased. Unemployment levels decreased. But again, the negative point was that inflation takes place due to aggregate demand. Inflation as aggregate demand increases. Sorry about that. And of course, more jobs were created. What other were the factors? Yeah, better balance of payments, low unemployment, but you have to compromise with the price stability. Now, if let's say you want to aim for low unemployment, you still, if you want a low unemployment, you again, it's related to the previous one. You still tend towards a budget deficit, and taxation is also reduced for the same reason as above one. But again, inflation will take place because more incomes, more demand. As more incomes and thus more demand. Then if you want price stability, in this case you tend towards a budget surplus. You want to spend less money in towards the economy. You would want to ensure that people have less money to spend. Budget surplus. Also, to achieve that, I think to reduce inflation, we have to use monetary policy as well, which we will talk about in the next videos. And government spending here reduced. Government spending reduces. And taxation is increased so that people have less money. So the demand will fall. Now demand falls and inflation level falls. And finally, if you want to achieve, but yeah, but the negative consequences of this are uh, businesses have less money to reinvest, so they would have cut down on costs such as workers, so unemployment level rises and we have a worse balance of payments. Finally, if you want a healthier balance of payments, then you would tend towards a budget surplus as well. You want to have more money. The government wants to have more money so that they can have a healthier balance of payments as like relative to other countries, and so government spending reduces businesses. So of course, spending reduces and they increase the tax. Now consumers have less income. Disposable income. Consumers have less disposable incomes. Now businesses will see fall in demand, and so they have to cut down on costs again. They cut down on costs. One of them would be workers. And so unemployment level rises. So now this is applicable, these effects are applicable here as well, because this is also relating to the budget surplus. And these two are interrelated, very closely related. And yeah, that's it. That's how you evaluate fiscal policy. So this could really help you in evaluation question. Feel free to take a screenshot of it or something, and you can always return back to this video if you want. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the fiscal policy. I don't think you need to know anything else. Alright guys, in case I've missed something, I'll upload that in a very short, like 1 or 2 minute video. And if you like this video, please subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, like if you didn't, then don't. Leave a like. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment box. You can always message me on Instagram as well. I think the link will be in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.